In this video, I'm going to be talking about LPOPs, or listening posts, observation posts. You'll put these in at locations where you're trying to determine who's moving through that particular area, or you could be putting it around a perimeter of base camp to give you that advance warning that the enemy is approaching. You also would use these as your security for operations or other types of missions, really. Now, what I got here in my little diagram is one of them that I set up years ago, back when I was a younger team leader. I was tasked by the company to go out and set up a two-man LPOP overwatching an LZ. So the LZ was right here. It was large enough that you could probably get in maybe 3 or 4 choppers at any given time. It was fairly close to the company perimeter. Our OP4 or opposing force for the exercise did not have helicopter capabilities, but we had to plan for it anyway as part of our evaluation stuff that was going on as a unit. So what I did, I came in with the one troop. I think we came in from this side. We stayed within the perimeter of the vegetation, stayed back in the trees and in the bushes. We looked over the LZ and we tried to figure, well, where would be the best angle for watching it that would also allow us a good escape route. Well, when we were looking, we found a big cluster of bushes. In the center of it, it was pretty thin. So what we did, we made an entrance on the back here, cut out a couple bushes. We then cleared out a little bit of the bushes on the inside, and then the bushes that we cut out, we fed in on the sides. In the areas that was a little bit thinner, we tried to thicken it up. And we made sure that we had good observation to over the LZ and also our flanks in case someone tried sneaking up on us. At no time when setting up the LPOP did we go out into the area that we were observing. We always stayed inside the vegetation. Now, something I recommend if you set up an LPOP, set up an area for you to do your Class 1 download duties. For whenever you have to leak or take a leak or take a dump. In our case, there was a tree that was farther back, see about 10-20 meters, and that was a landmark that we could see from the LPOP. So we would go back to that location, and that was where we did our business, and then we returned. By doing that way, by having a landmark in case something happened to the person that left the LPOP, the person that was still up here knew where that person was. So they knew what direction to travel, to go, and see if everything's okay if they took too long. Now, during the daytime, an LPOP typically is 2 people. At nighttime, expect 4 people. But a lot of that is going to depend on how long those people are in that position. If they're in there for 24 hours, I recommend 4 people so that you can do a rotation. You have 2 people up, 2 people down, resting. And then if you're doing it overnight, I would recommend 4 people also. So that way you're constantly rotating through the night, so the people that are doing the eyes on are not getting too tired and starting to nod off. Your LPOP should have at least 1 means of communication, preferably 2, with nearby friendly elements, like the company perimeter, or if it's put up to watch the flanks for an ambush, communications with the ambush party. You should have a secure means of communication, like a field phone, especially if you're set up outside some type of base camp. The field wire from that phone back to the base camp should be buried to conceal it, so the enemy is not going to be able to find that wire and trace it back to where the LPOP is. But you should also have radio communication with back at camp also as a backup. Now, when I did this particular LPOP years ago, what the OP4 did, they knew we had an LPOP up on this LZ. They did not know where we were. They were looking for us. They couldn't find us. What they did do is they started monitoring the radio nets. And during one of the radio checks that was done with us by the TOC, that allowed them to narrow down as to what frequency we were on. They then got on our frequency and then tried to get us to open fire. They told us that there was enemy to our front. We needed to open fire immediately. They pretended to be our CO, or commanding officer. Well, I and the other guy looked at each other and we said, no, that doesn't seem right. And we didn't do it. We also did not use the radio that much at that point. If we had another means of communication, we would have gotten on it right away and confirmed the order, or at least let them know that that frequency had been compromised. So that's one of the reasons why you have two means of communication. We found out later during the after action report at the end of the exercise that that had been the OP4 trying to get us to open fire to give away our position. Now, I'll mention this: if you do, thicken up the camouflage around your position with cut brush, replace that every day, because the leaves will wilt, and you don't want it being too obvious. They will give away your position easier. If you're going to be in an you're going to be using an LPOP for a long period of time, what you can do is maybe dig in a two-person foxhole with possibly a sleep shelter on the side. Make sure to camouflage it very well, give it some overhead cover, but you want to be able to have good 360 vision around it. So you'll probably just want the cover over the top, but your sides mostly open, possibly have like sandbags stacked on the four corners of the overhead cover holding it up, say a good foot off the ground so that you can see out. One way you can do an LPOP in grasslands is ghillie suits. The people that are on LPOP duty wearing ghillie suits, they add some of the grass from around them to their ghillie suits, so that way they blend in, so the enemy could walk right past and will not see them. They're camouflaging their position as best as possible. An LPOP is not meant to be a fighting position. Just keep that in mind. The people that are on LPOP duty, they're there to give you warning of enemy approach. They are not meant to fight from that position. They'll do it if they need to survive, but they are not meant to. If the enemy starts coming in and they're all around them, they're not going to be tossing grenades or opening fire on the enemy. They're going to let the enemy pass, and they're going to be sending those reports back. They'll be telling you how many people are coming in, any special equipment they see, any weapons, the direction they're heading, direction they're coming from, what do they think they're doing. Are they coming in for an assault? Are they coming in for a probing attack? Does it look like they're just checking us out? What's going on? They send in as much information as possible to the TOC. People on LPOP duty should not do a lot of talking, even amongst each other. If they do, it should be in low voice. Preferably during the daytime, they should just write it down. Write it down on a piece of paper in a notebook, and they just pass it back and forth so that they have a conversation going that way without putting out too much noise, giving away their position. Another thing you're going to have to watch on LPOP is smells of your food. So you're probably not going to want to cook food up here in the LPOP and eat it. You're going to want to eat something that does not require preparation, that you have with you, that doesn't have a strong smell. Something that may suck on this during winter time is your LPOP probably should not get hot coffee, because the smell of the coffee can carry on the wind, and someone would be able to figure it out where you're at by following that smell back. The LPOP needs to make sure to follow light, noise, and litter discipline, probably beyond what you do inside the perimeter, because there's supposed to be a hole out here that no one notices. They exist, but no one sees them. Now, the length of time you're in LPOP, it can be a few hours, it can be a day. If you're going on rotating them out each day, I would recommend 4 people on the LPOP, and you rotate them at night. When you rotate them, it should be at random. You should not have the exact same time each night that the LPOP gets changed out. Now, how changing out the LPOP works. The people out here should have an idea of when they're going to get rotated out. They'll be told, you know, hey, you're going to be up here for this amount of time. So they'll make sure to bring up enough food, enough water, any shelter materials they may need, like ponchos, or possibly blankets or sleeping bags if it's winter time, to cover themselves up to stay warm. When it gets close to that time, they should be signaled by the talk, by the camp, that their replacements are coming out. They'll be told how many people are coming out and generally what direction. At least if you're using a field telephone. If you're using a radio, probably shouldn't give them that much detail. Just let them know that, hey, the replacements are coming out to your position. And they should already know the direction that they're going to be coming from and a number of people. Now, this is not overly complicated on how to do this. There's nothing really special on it. It's all personal preference and abilities. Now, for all my engineer brothers and the Patriot and militia movements, always remember, essayons.